Hey there! So, if you didn't know, before the release of chapters 3 and 4, there were mainly 3 big theories going around the Deltarune community that everyone was going around having theories about. These theories were as follows: the night, for pretty obvious reasons, future chapter locations, which were mainly speculation based in where stuff was going to happen, and who the angel was in the prophecy. Now, the angel is a very important part of Deltarune, as they do have an extremely big role to play in the story moving forward, and the prophecy, of course. The most prominent speculation on who the angel was before the release of these chapters was the player of the game, or us, or whoever we're supposed to be like if there's some parallel to us. And I really agreed with this theory, as it seemed so much in tune with the narrative Deltarune is trying to tell. So to my surprise, after the release of these chapters, that I still see people speculating on who the angel is, since honestly I feel like these chapters only strengthen player angel and make it probably the most likely candidate, with no other option seeming as viable from all chapter 4 mainly. So that's what I want to go over today. I want to analyze and possibly come to the likely truth that player is the angel. So let's go back to before the release of the new chapters a month and a half ago. I know, time really flies already. And to be honest, in these chapters, there wasn't that much evidence on who the angel was in general, like if it was the player or if it was any other speculation. Mainly going off a few lines of dialogue and just going off the narrative structure and how the story is going to seem to flow in Deltarune. Now, the only piece of pure evidence that I have in these chapters, like these ones, is when Alvin, after you talk to him in chapter 1, he will states, "May the angel guide you the way." Now, this line obviously parallels us and Chris, because since Alvin is talking to Chris in this line, they're saying, "May the angel guide you the way," and if we are the angel, then we are literally guiding Chris by controlling them, basically, guiding their every action in some way, and I do think this line is meant to parallel it. Of course, you could chalk it up to just religion speak. In many religions, you'll see phrases like, "May God guide you the way," or whatever deity they believe in. But in retrospect, looking back on these chapters and all the new evidence of who the angel is, I do think that this is hinted towards player angel more than anything else. So why did players post chapter 2 believe in player angel theory more than anything else? Well, I think most of the players of Deltarune saw that us, the player / soul, I'm just referring to the soul as the player, and aligned with the angel the most, more than any other candidate of who the angel could be. Now, there were other theories on who the angel was, like Noelle. There's a lot of dialogue calling her angel from Spampton, I believe, and also in the Dark World she wears white, heavenly sort of garbs on, like they're just white clothing. I do think it's supposed to be some sort of imagery for that too. However, the angel's role within the prophecy is to be banished, and I do think that does fit the most with the player. Like an end to a game, that's what it would parallel, I think. And the ending of the game is our banishment. Now, narratively in the game, the player has a role to fill, since we obviously are some sort of our own character, as far as we know. Right now, the chapters make it extremely obvious that we are not Chris, and they are not us. But our role is not just to show that Chris is their own character. We probably have a bigger role to play in the story, and the angel would be the perfect spot to put us in, with our connection to the game being lost in order for us to have an ending to the game, whether it's happy or sad. Of course, we don't know that yet. So really, what I want to look at from these new chapters is 2 points of strong evidence for player angel theory that I do think are really, really compelling to look at and make it seem like the player is the angel, that I want to share. And I do really think these point towards the player being the angel, just kind of flat out telling us. So let's start with the more obvious one first. They're both kind of, though, obscure within the game. So there's a hidden room with a secret piece of the prophecy in chapter 4 that reads the words, "The angel banished will finally meet with its desire." I believe it's in some sort of side room. I didn't come across this in my playthrough. Now, the party comments on this prophecy talked about the angel and how it looks interesting, with Susie and Ralsei talking about it. However, it is extremely important to note that we cannot see the prophecy, as it is just blank to us, while Ralsei and Susie can. Of course, it is unclear if Chris can see it, because they don't talk at all. And it seems like we don't literally look through Chris's eyes, I don't think. I'm not really sure on the logistics here. So, why can't we see the prophecy? It would make sense, though, that we can't see it, since we are the angel and the game doesn't want to show us to it in some way. I don't know exactly how this is explained, because Susie can obviously see herself in the prophecy in whichever way you believe. Like, both times she comments on herself, whether she's the second or not in the prophecy at all. Now again, not sure on the logistics of who can see the prophecy, what limits us for not being able to see it, but it is quite interesting that we are the only ones who cannot see it. Noting that the angel does look like interesting in some way. Honestly, that seems like the most likely reason that we can't see the prophecy is that we are the angel. Because if Noelle was the angel or someone else, why wouldn't we be able to see it, right? It's just being showed blank for like no reason, basically. And I think Susie, if Noelle was the angel, would have a different reaction to it. Speaking of Susie, though, this part isn't as hard of evidence. It's just a little side thing I want to note. Since this room is optional, and Susie says this no matter what, no matter you're done with the room. But oddly in this chapter, Susie comments on the soul right after you beat the Titan. When you seal it, she says, Chris, is that your ... and then gets interrupted because she wants to look through the old man. But she's obviously talking about the soul in this case. Now, it's completely possible that she is wondering if that is Chris's soul, and it looks strikingly similar to the angel in some way. That's why she's finally bringing it up, because she could see it in the other chapters, probably. But I'm not really 100% on this being why she finally speaks up on the soul. It may be just a coincidence, but I do think it's interesting to note at the same time. So this second piece of evidence, I honestly think is even stronger than the first one. So in the holiday house at the start of chapter 4, at the beginning, we have this whole segment of going through the vents and things. Very memorable. So many lore drops. And you know how you eventually make your way to the basement, turning off the power switch. As we turn off the power, in order to progress, we have to run into the tree on the right of the screen and make it come crashing down. After doing this, though, we literally get put under an angel doll from the top of it. And I think this is quite literally supposed to be visual symbolism that we are the angel. And it really subtly hinting that we are the angel. We could have been put under literally any other object or decoration. A star, Santa, like a Santa hat. Anything, but specifically we're put under the angel doll, being I think pretty obvious symbolism that we are the angel. And then we move around as the angel to scare them and stuff like that. I really think that Toby and the people working on the game are trying to convince us that we are the angel. Of course, it could be one big red herring. I don't know what Toby's mind is going through, or any of the people, whoever made that scene. I don't know if Toby specifically made that scene, but I don't think they're trying to throw us off, really. I do think it's trying to show that we are the angel, and it's trying to symbolize that. And honestly, this scene in the house made me even more confident on player angel theory. And it really, I think it seems like the most likely candidate, and I have like a 90% certainty on this. So what is the point of the player being the angel, and why are we here in the first place in Deltarune? Well, I've discussed it a little before in this video, but I do really have full confidence that this role of the soul/player, again, I'm just using them interchangeably, is much bigger than we're being led on to think. And I don't think it's just being cool that we are not Chris, and Chris is not us, obviously. I think that the player has a hidden bigger role that we will have to fill at some point, and that we will need to be banished in order for the game to end with a good conclusion. This will then lead to our desire, obviously, mentioned in the prophecy. The angel banished will meet with its desire, which is my guess is a happy ending to the game is our desire. I don't see it being any other candidate. Maybe it's possible that in the weird route it's like leading to Gaster, because only people who are like crackhead found the weird route in Deltarune. Maybe, I'm just saying that one though. But I just want to note that it is very intentional that we have a title within the game though too. We are specifically named the angel in Deltarune within the game, and not just the soul or player, because of similar ways of how Undertale handles its story, I do think. In Undertale, Toby Fox writes a very fine line between breaking the fourth wall and staying within the realms of the game at the same time. In Undertale, somehow things are meta and within the bounds of the game, like the whole save and load system, and I do think this is very intentional. And I think the same thing is kind of happening with us as the angel. I do think we are dubbed the angel and have some role outside of just playing the game, so that Toby can ride this fine line again like he did in Undertale with us. And do feel like he's trying to do this to make sure we're not being called out directly within the game in order to not break some sort of immersion within it. However, this could also not be true. Just spitballing. It's just like, I just want to note that in Undertale, he does make it very, very, very fourth wall, but not at the same time. And I do think he'll try to do the same in Deltarune. And this will conclude my video. Thanks for watching. I'm happy with the support on my last video, and want to keep continuing making videos in the future. If you want, you can subscribe to the channel if you think I deserve it, obviously, as that will help me out. I am looking forward to keep growing the channel and stuff like that. However, if you are skeptical, maybe just see in the future and keep it in mind, you know. And thanks again for watching. Player Angel was always a theory, though, in Chapter 2 that I did feel the most strongly opinioned on. To be honest, when it came to like night theories and location theories, I didn't really care who it was. I wasn't really that invested in them because I had a feeling that it was going to be written well either way. However, I did feel a strong stance on Angel theory because I did feel like Player made the most sense narrative-wise. And I do think it still will be. Of course, there's still a possibility that it's not. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's just my personal take that the Player is the Angel. And at the end of the day, thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.